solid science that we accept. Yeah. Now, what happens is not everything a scientist says is science. Okay, scientists can say something that they believe. They can say something that is based upon their conjecture. Okay, so when we look at the scientific method, whatever passes through that's fine. We accept. This is our chemistry. This is our biology. But when it comes to these big explanations of these things, this is not the scientific method. This is a scientist's explanation. So not everything a scientist said is science. Okay, but in terms of the scientific method, can we do any of these experiments, observation, experimentation, or repeatability on the Big Bang?
No.
We can't. What we can do is make inferences based upon tests that we can do today. Okay, so we need to understand the distinction between hardcore science that he mentioned at the beginning and conjectural science, theoretical science. This is where we get cosmology, this is where we get these physics and stuff like that. So if you understand this distinction, and you'll be able to see that not everything that is passed off as science is actually hardcore science. So that's what he was getting to when he mentioned that verse, we were not witnesses to creation, meaning the scientific method, we can't, sorry, it doesn't mean this, but from that we get that we can't apply the scientific method to that because we were not there. Do you get the point?
So essentially, right, so here's the thing, yeah, you're sure, some of it's theoretical, right? But let's say the age of the universe. Do you believe it's older or maybe younger than 13 billion years old?
Allah knows best what it is. I don't have they say 13.7 billion years ago, but this is something that is, again, based upon assumptions, based upon experiments that they then make conjectures based upon. So it's not hardcore science that we know is 13.7 billion years ago.
Yeah, but we know it's at least 13.8 billion. Go on.
Do you know that age, 13.7 billion years? Do you know where it comes from? Okay, well, what happened was Edwin Hubble, he observed the universe and he saw the redshift in it. So when he put it all into his formulas, he got 1 billion years as the age of the universe. They didn't tell him to go back and say, no, you can't have it as 1 billion, you need to extend it, because if you have it as 1 billion, we don't have enough time for the evolution of the universe, let alone the evolution of human beings. So that just tells you right there that the fact that they told him to go back and do that, that's not hardcore science no more. Also, another thing, the parameters they're using to judge the age of the universe in themselves have certain assumptions which need to be proven before you accept them in it. So that age 13.8 billion, you'll see many scientists come and say, no, I don't accept it. Because the tools you're using are rusty tools, they don't work properly in it. And the fact that someone's telling you, go back and change your formulas to put fudge factors in, to make sure that our one theory, which we have to prove anyways, is allowed to work based on another theory which needs to prove, shows that this isn't science anymore. This is philosophy more than it is science.
And that's what religion. These other religions, when people say this is religion, you use the observations to fit your philosophical background. This is what is happening there.
Yeah, but essentially how they measure the age of the universe is they look at how far a certain object is from where we are right now. Yeah. So basically during the Big Bang, maybe they were particularly close to where we are. Yeah. But over time they get farther and farther, further and further away, and they look okay.
Have we seen them? Look, you see the stars now. Okay, if we go to ancient, you can look at ancient kind of structures and ancient kind of cosmology from thousands of years ago. You'll see that when they map out the stars, the distance, what they've mapped out from then and what we see now is still the same. But if we're flying through Earth millions and millions of miles per hour and so on and so forth, you're going to see huge changes. But we don't see these changes on that scale. So when you're saying that we've seen this have you seen where it was initially?
No, of course.
So then how can you now say it's now here and it came from there? You can see the redshift may point to that, but you can't say this is pure, set in stone, we know where it was and we know where it came from, because we were not witnesses to it.
Also quickly to add, because I know where you're going, you're saying distance is equal to velocity, is what you're basically saying. That premise isn't acceptable in science, because there was an Indian scientist who saw there was a star close, or a galaxy or something, closer to us and had a greater redshift. So that clearly falsifies the premise that distance equals velocity. So how does that work?
Yeah, we're going to come back to it.
This galaxy or star has a greater redshift than another galaxy and star, but it's closer to us. Because it should be that the greater the star or the galaxy moves away from us, the longer the distance of velocity. But this one was close to us and had a greater redshift. So again, you have to establish here is there is a lot of dissension, because this is philosophical science, is theoretical in it, where there's something at play called the philosophy of science here. And what this is I don't believe in God, I don't believe in a creator, so I'm going to work everything around, not explain how this can come out without God. I'll give you an example. Let's say I look to Mars and I see no life on Mars, and I don't believe there's a creator. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to infer from that there's no life on Earth. That's not. maybe the observation is right. Okay, yeah, maybe there is no life on Mars, say for example. But that doesn't mean that explanation you've given here is correct, innit? I'll give you a nice example. Explain it. Let's say how can you make the number 4? 1 plus 3, 2 plus 2, or 4 times 1. If I have 4 chickens crossing the road, which one? Well, 4 plus 0. Let's say 4 plus 0 because it's mixing with simple. If I have 4 chickens, what's crossing from point A to point B? What formula suits it best? With 4 plus 0, right? That's the same. It's the same thing here. You may come to an observation, but your explanation of it isn't correct, innit? Not the observation is wrong, but your explanation is wrong, innit? And that your explanation comes from what is your philosophy of science, innit? Are you someone who you believe in a creator, so therefore you know, okay, which is inherent in human beings anyways, and you're gonna say, okay, so because I believe in a creator, I'm gonna explain this observation by and the fact that God put these mechanisms in the creation, and it's how it works. Or you're gonna say someone like, or you're an atheist, and gonna say, well, I don't believe in a creator, so I need to explain it through fictitious forces and fudge factors and hypothetical assumptions. That's what's going on here, isn't it? The thing is, what you have to start with is which premise makes sense. Is it that we as humans, we recognize inherently that there is a creator, because I can't create this shoe didn't come out from nowhere, let alone me with a cell. One human cell is more complicated than my shoe, in it. Even at the base level, they say it's like a city. So if it's not possible for my shoe, then it's not possible for me, or even greater than me, the heavens and the earth, in it. So if we understand that, that's one proposition we're given. The other proposition is pure chaos, pure randomness, which by its very definition, by the very observation you're making, me and your heads are in the same place, our arms are in the same place, our feet are in the same place, our nose is in the same place. That's not random anymore, innit? That's clear intent. Do you understand that?
So do you believe in there's a creator?
Well, I'm myself, I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay. So in the Quran it mentions that أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون أم خلق السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون. Did mankind come from nothing, or did he create himself? Or did mankind come from nothing, or did they create himself? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Those who disbelieve have no firm belief. Okay. From the examples that he's given about the shoe, that shoe, would you affirm a creator for it or not?
Of course.
Why? Of course. Mathematically, there's a possibility. If we're talking mathematics and all of these kind of theoretical things that people invoke when it comes to the cosmology, we can invoke it for the shoe. But your common sense and your pure intuition would say, no, that has to have a creator. Okay, now we are more complex than that. So, and the heavens and the earth, the alternation of the heavens and the earth, you know it's Sunday today. How do we know that? Why? Because the sun has risen and set a number of times that we can calculate our days, our months, our years, based upon, all of this is order. Okay, and this is an assumption for science. This is from the philosophy of science, an assumption. That there's an assumption that yes, we live in a real world, an observable world, and that we can make observations and that we can explain these observations rationally. This is the basis of the scientific method. Otherwise, the scientific method, what does it rest upon? It relies upon there being order in the world. Okay, so this order now, either it's a product of matter just creating itself to be like a shoe, or it's a product of knowledge, will, and power. So for those people that would bend over backwards and do gymnastics to try and say, well, no, absolute materialism, only matter exists, there's no such thing as like a knowledgeable creator or anything like that, they would do anything to just uphold the idea of materialism, okay? But you, just from your basic intuition, you would reject it for that shoe. If I had a prior religious belief or prior philosophical belief that there is no such thing as shoe designers, that's my belief. My philosophical belief, there's no such thing as shoe. Do you think I couldn't explain your shoe or his shoe using mathematics, using different formulas and different things? Of course you can come up with an explanation, but how powerful, how much weight can that explanation bear? So of course people are going to say, and unfortunately most of these the top academics, they do have these beliefs, they do have these assumptions, but yet you're not told that the person who comes up with these beliefs has or these theories has a prior conviction to materialism. When Edward Hubble saw these results that seemed to point to the Earth being at the center of the universe, he said, "How disgusting is this? How horrible!" He was horrified by it.
Lawrence Krauss,
And Lawrence Krauss evil. But even Edward Hubble, when he sees this, you'll see there's quotes by him that he mentions that this thing is shocking, it's horrifying to see this. Why is it horrifying? That's an emotion. Your emotion shouldn't come into the actual hardcore science. So now this is why he went away put in the fudge factors, restructured his model and restructured his explanations to now fit, to allow this. So what's happened is many people, Muslim or non-Muslim, they've basically come at the question of God's existence, or is religion true, or and stuff like that. They've come at it from a purely materialist worldview. They themselves may not be materialists, okay? But they've adopted this baggage and they've looked at this subject based upon that worldview. That's why when the brother Shamsi mentioned the order of the creation of the universe in the Quran, you said it's wrong. You never said that it opposes materialist view, or you said it's wrong. Why? Because it's a sleight of hand trick. What they've told you as theoretical physics and theoretical cosmology, you've taken that as fact, hardcore science, when it's not. Hardcore science is the chemistry that we get our paracetamols or whatever. That's the hardcore science. But when it comes to explaining what happened 13.7 billion years ago and stuff, this is not the hardcore science. This is not science. Okay? This is explanation. This is somebody's explanation. Now their explanation is guided by their prior assumptions. And if you don't understand their prior assumptions, you won't understand their conclusions. That's what I'm saying. Fadal Akhi, go on.
Is that clear, yeah?
Yes, it's clear, but like, speaking of theoretical science, evolution, right? Do you like take it as like somewhat fact, or you just completely dismiss it?
Okay, again, there's a prior assumption within all of these subjects to to do away with a rational, a knowledgeable, powerful, willful creator. If there's an assumption that there's no creator, then obviously no matter what field it's going to be in, if they're producing these theories, then of course their beliefs are going to be in it. Whether it's evolution and biology, whether it's cosmology, all of these things. So we have to first identify: is there a creator or not? Okay, and this is again the order that we look and use the scientific method for. That order that is evident in the world, that the scientific method relies upon. How can we now then this order doesn't come around from random matter acting upon itself? We have established that with the shoe. So there must be a knowledgeable agent. Do we agree with that first of all?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Okay.
That singularity couldn't come out of nothing, therefore...
Not even singularity, but we're talking about the order in the universe. Yeah. Is there order or not? Is there order in the universe or not? We could not have this conversation without order. So it's a given. It's so known. And in fact, it's one of the philosophical assumptions of the scientific method that there must be order and that we can rationally explain it. These observations that we see can be rationally explained. So this is a given now. Yeah. Okay. Now what happens is they use the scientific method further and then make observations, and then they'll do explanations. So there's three things. There's what is known as the necessities, the dururiyat, which are underpinning the whole thing, underpin everything. These are a given. Okay. Then there's the hardcore science that relies upon that, and then there's the observations from that hardcore science that can be explained many different ways. Okay. So we're using the observations to do away with that which underpins our foundations. It's similar to you sitting on the edge of that branch of that tree with a saw in your hand, sawing the same branch that holds you up. And when you get through it and your saw works, you fall. Because you can't have a conclusion as a fact that contradicts the initial premise, the initial assumption, the initial foundations. That there's order, and that this order it can't come about from matter acting upon itself to appear designed. It's clearly designed. This is a given. So when you look at a menu and you see the actual writing on a menu, you can explain that using chemistry, using biology, and talk about the ink, but you can't talk about the meaning. You can't talk about the purpose. You can see purpose inside you. Your eyes have a purpose. Blind matter doesn't understand purpose. Okay? We have alternation of the night and the day. We can structure our whole lives around that. So much so that to come here today, because it's Sunday, you didn't come yesterday. Okay? Why? Because we can structure structure our lives around this order. It's a given. This is why we say that this shoe that has its laces, has a tongue, has cushion on the heel, all of these things, that shows to me a knowledgeable, willful agent with ability and power to make these things. So you're more complex. That camera itself is trying to reproduce our eye. So how can that be a product of knowledge, but yet we're not a product of knowledge? Now I can invoke mathematics and say this and all these kind of formulas and stuff to explain it away, but the reality is the basic intuition would necessitate that that's a product of knowledge. Likewise, I'm a product of knowledge.
Yeah.
And we can use maths. We can use the maths, for example. If I was to take, let me give you an example. Let me just try and remember the examples. You probably remember them as well. So if we say take now, yeah, the equation 4 minus 2 and 2 minus 4, 2 equations in maths. Okay. Now if we start off in Speaker's Corner today and we go 4 miles south, yeah, and then 2 miles. You remember this? No. Okay. 2 miles back. Where are we now relative from our start point? We're still we're still 2 miles south of where we started. Okay. Now, if we was to take 2 miles south and 4 miles north from our start point, where are we? We're 2 miles north of our start point. Okay. So this formula, 4 minus 2, 2 minus 4, it works. Okay. Now you have 4 apples. I take 2 of them. How many apples do you have left?
2.
Okay. Now you have 2 apples. I take 4 of them. How many apples do you have left?
Minus 2.
No.
No, nothing.
I can't take 4 apples.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see how it works in maths, but in reality, it works. It doesn't work. But it may work in another equation, in another example in real life. But we now can't apply that and bring it into talk about all of these things. So the maths is what we know in Arabic and from Islamic tradition as known as sihr al-bayan. This is basically a form. It's like trickery. It's card tricks. It's literally like a card trick. It's sihr al-bayan, like an eloquent speech that's used to beautify something that's not there.
So said that as well. It's called Herbert Dingle said, I as a scientist can use maths to tell you the truth, so I can also use science and maths to tell you a lie.
And this is it. So if we understand this, and then we start with our foundations, we're not rocked by our foundations later. We're not rocked later on in these things.
But any theories?
Yeah. Why? Because the foundations.
Evolution,
And that's like all these discussions. They take it back to the origin. The origin. Do you have a creator? Before we start talking about what is the meaning of this verse, what is the meaning of that verse, firstly, did this verse come from Allah? Did this come from our creator? If we can establish that came from our creator, then we move forward based upon that. We don't put it into doubt and we uphold something else that is speculative as this is the criteria. No, we don't do that. We start with our foundations. We stand on our own squares, they say. So I hope that answers.
So the Darwin evolution, like even the what's his name? Have you watched the commentary called the Expelled Ones? No. The Expelled Ones was the commentary done by one. What's his name? The Jewish guy. I forgot his name. He's known. He's a presenter known in America. When he went to American universities, big universities, British universities. He spoke to scientists who did works to prove that evolution is wrong or to prove there is a creator. They had to tell them, listen, you have to leave. So what's happened, why I'm mentioning this, you should watch it, called the Expelled Ones. The Expelled Ones, yeah? Why I'm mentioning that, what's happened in our time, those who want to manipulate us and control us and turn us away from our creator, they are utilizing 2 things, media and education. Because that's the best way to manipulate the people and control them. So now what they're pushing in schools, universities, science is a fact. Darwin evolution is a fact. Even though it's a pure belief. It's a belief based upon assumption, clearly. Because why? As a brother Anwar explained to you about science, based upon observation. You understand? So they cannot, one of the scholars said, he said, okay, how many years this Darwin evolution? How come it stopped as a human being? Why we're not evolving? They're going to say because, of course, they have explanation.
We are evolving.
Yeah, no, so how are we evolving?
Okay, you see wisdom teeth.
Okay.
Do you have wisdom teeth?
I don't know, I haven't checked it to be honest. I don't have time to check it, but anyway.
Right. Back like on Homo habilis and stuff, we used to eat like leaves and grass and stuff, so that those wisdom teeth really did help grind that, those sort of leaves. Right nowadays, you see people that some of them were born, some of them were born without wisdom teeth. And you can see that's kind of like some sort of evidence of evolution.
No, that's adaptation. That's not evolution.
You mix it between evolution and adaptation. Evolution, adaptation is not the same. Evolution, that's why if you ask, can you give me a living example? Because what is the Darwinian evolution? Darwinian evolution, that's why even Richard Dawkins, what he said, when he was asked this question, how come we haven't seen one species evolve into completely different species? He said, due to the time. You see, due to the time, we cannot observe that. So are you telling me there's any species, it's time for it to move or to evolve to completely different species? That's what I'm saying, okay, just pure assumption, pure khurafa. The biggest khurafa, khurafa? The biggest hallucination is Darwinian evolution. I'm telling you.
As a scientist, he actually admitted his own admission. He said, "We as scientists know that the theory of evolution is not satisfactory in explaining observations. But the reason, and this is proving the point we were making earlier about the philosophy of science, but the reason we accept the theory of evolution is to keep divine footsteps out of the door." He's clearly telling you what his agenda is. He said agenda is, I don't want there to be a creator in the discussion of the observation. So therefore, we have to rely upon the theory of evolution. But if you do some research, I'm not talking about like going into a school textbook because they're going to hide from stuff. I mean, and this is not even a conspiracy. It's actually true. They do suppress evidence. It's known as suppression of scientific evidence. But if you do actual in-depth research, there's a book called Darwin's Black Box, and that is a fundamental flaw in the theory of evolution. Because basically, the way things adapt here is, let's say, take the human eye. The human eye has certain things in it which, if it's not there, it will never exist in it. But because when Darwin came up with the theory, they didn't understand things like cells and how they were. So they found that the human cell works like a motor. Now, I don't know if you know anything about electrical sciences, but there's no way a generator or a motor is going to come by pure chance. Way too complex, isn't it? Your human cell works exactly the same like that. And if it's missing, so like if you have a generator and you take out some of the coils in it, that generator's not working. You're not going to get the magnetic field in it. But
which one was us?
So if you take out some of the parts of a human cell, that human cell is not going to evolve. It cannot evolve in it. That's what they call Darwin's black box. There's also something called the Cambrian explosion, which is.
It's not going to record you, but just voice.
So if you research the Cambrian explosion, what this was is they basically looked at the fossil records because everyone touts fossil records as the proof of evolution. But hold up a second, let's take a step back here. We know in the fossil records there's not enough time and not enough fossils for there to be all the species we see today. So what did they had to make an ad hoc assumption, which in science that's not how it works. You don't make ad hoc assumptions in science. You prove, and then you go from there. You establish your evidence, then move in it. You make an assumption, then move. So they made an ad hoc assumption and say, okay, what we're going to say is there was a sudden explosion, sudden inflation, if you want, of species, and there wasn't enough time for them to settle into the fossil records. That's not science, that's belief. And going back to the definition of science, if it's not repeatable and it's not falsifiable, that's religion now. You're starting at, not you, I'm saying, but an evolutionist doesn't realize he's starting the same person as, for example, a Christian. Because a Christian is starting at a place of, okay, well, we believe in God, and God's not false. You can't say God is falsifiable. God is the truth in it. So what's the evolutionist doing? He's based on assuming that evolution is correct. But you have to prove evolution is correct. But us as believers, we don't have to prove Allah why, because it's inherent in human beings. We as humans, we know by pure instinct. I don't have to tell you. I can live on an island and you'll grow up believing there is a creator. That's the first evidence. Secondly, the pure common sense tells you, for example, if I pull out a gun and shoot you, you're not going to look at the gun. You're going to look at me. Do you know what I'm saying? So why are you for example, why you're looking at the creation? It's like taking a brick. There's got a wall of bricks, and you only look at one brick and you say this is the creator of the wall. No, you got to look at the whole thing and say, hold on a second. There's too much intricate design knowledge here to just look at one brick. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what evolutionists are doing. They're taking one little thing and running with it. It's like, no, hold up a second. Take a step back. Don't make ad hoc assumptions. Look at all the evidence.
The very mechanics that they are acting upon clearly it relies upon belief in a creator to actually work. Look, just another example that you mentioned about these people that are at the highest levels of academia that yet have a religious, like an anti-religious assumption. This guy known as was it Peter Atkins?
Yeah.
He said even if the stars were to align and say Peter, believe in me, he said I'd just rather say I'm mad. So this is so.
You get, yeah?
Do you get the point?
Yeah.
If the stars were to align and say Peter, believe in me, he would say I'd rather believe I'm mad than believe there's a creator. And this is what we mentioned in the Quran. If Allah was to send down a stairway from heaven, they would steal this.
And there's the media who are pushing to us as the best the scientists.
He's one of the highest people in Oxford. Okay, one of the high. What's his field? Is he
chemistry or physics? Chemistry, physics.
And he's at Oxford, sitting in one of the highest chairs in Oxford. So these are the levels. These are the kind of people that we're relying on for our belief to judge the Quran. Can't. No way. We have we stand on our own square. So this is basically in conclusion.
And you know what is the beauty of Islam as well? About why Islam is the truth, why there's a creator. There's something called universal proofs, universal evidences. You know what is universal proofs? Universal knowledge. What's your name again? Mohub. You know what is universal knowledge, Mohub? Universal knowledge. Regardless who you are, Christian or a Jew or Muslim, you're born with it. For example, naturally you know that for something to come into existence, must have what? Creator. That's naturally is known. Okay? The proof for that was the effect and the cause. Okay? Or we call it, for example, the creation, the creator. Okay? If there's a child and you hit the back of his neck, the child starts looking who hit him. Why? Because he knows for effects must have what? Someone that caused it. How he knew that? Someone said no, you learn it from the environment. That is incorrect because the baby is too young, is 2 years old to learn from the environment. It's something which is naturally within him, inherently. The other one that we know, that two contradiction thing, it's impossible for something to be perfect or imperfect at the same time. Or something to exist and not exist at the same time. Or something to exist one place, same time exists another place. Okay, same thing. The proof for that is inherently we have it. When a child, a baby, like 7 months, 8 months, start looking for her doll or for his doll, if he finds the doll, he will not start looking for the same doll somewhere else. Why? Because he knows inherently this doll cannot be here and there, same place. That's inherently, you see. And this is what we call al-fitra, which Allah said, فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله. That's why look to Islam. Allah gave us universal knowledge. When you look to Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, every ism doesn't go in line with our universal knowledge, which the Creator has put within us. Rather goes with Islam. Worship your Creator, who is perfect and according to His way. Not God became a baby, someone touches nappy. You understand? Or literally, Mahub, speaking to one guy yesterday, he's an atheist. He said to me, it's possible for this creation to create itself. I said to him, if the creation never existed, non-existent, it was a non-existent, how it's going to create itself? He said it's possible. You cannot speak to someone like that because by definition it's not there. So logic dictates something else should bring it into existence. And that's what Allah said. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Were they created by nothing? Nothing is not even a thing, let alone to create something. Or to create yourself. You know, it's funny because I was speaking to one guy, he wants to be stubborn. He said, yes, my parents created me. I said, you sure? He said, yeah. I said, how come when you die, your parents cry for you? Why they cannot give your life back again? Wallahi. You know what he said to me? No, do you know what? There's no death anyway. He had to negate what is known by necessity. So this person, that's what Allah said, you know, Surah Musa. قال رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إن كنتم موقنين. Okay, let me ask the brothers here. Why Musa ﷺ said إن كنتم موقنين? Why he didn't say إن كنتم تعلمون? Because the scholar said, he's telling them, if you're not certain about this creation must have a creator, then you don't have no certainty anymore. If you're not certain about something which is well observable, must have a creator, you can't have certainty about anything. And that's what's happening with atheism now. Atheism, true atheism, leads to subjectivity. There is no certainty at all. Everything is subjective. What is true to you, so to you, but to me can be something else. Subjectivity is dangerous. Yes, there is some subjectivity. However, there is some stuff which is objective. You understand? Yeah. So the beauty of Islam, Akhi Mawhub, Islam, when Allah told us to believe in Him, to believe the Quran is the word of Allah, to believe Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He did not tell us just believe and keep quiet. No. Allah said, Allah give a challenge. Allah utilized logical argument. What is the logical argument? The verse I mentioned. Even the logical argument against the Christians, why Jesus cannot be God. What Allah said, كَانَ يَأْكُلَانِ الطَّعَامِ. Both of them used to eat food. About Jesus and His mother. What does it mean? They cannot be God who is self-sufficient. Because the nature of self-sufficiency is not in need of nothing all the times. The fact that Jesus had to eat food and drink water cannot be the same God who is perfect all the times. Logical way. So we don't say to Christians, Jesus cannot be God because Allah said He's not God, full stop. No, Allah gave us a logical way why Jesus cannot be God. Everyone with a sound reasoning will agree with us. When Allah comes to the atheist, Allah gives us a logical proofs why atheism is irrational. When it comes to polytheism, Allah gives us logical proof, rational proofs why it's illogical. When it comes to prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah gave us logical proofs, rational proofs why he's a messenger of Allah. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, why the Quran is a miracle? Let me make it clear. They used to drink day and night. Day and night drinking khamr. It's like coffee for them. You know, Algerian, we love coffee. North Africa, coffee every day. You know, for the Arabs back in those days, khamr is like coffee for Algerians. Drinking day, morning, evening. He came to them, they wouldn't know what? To get married or to have fornication with more than 10 women. All their life. He's coming to them, telling them, stop all of that. What is your proof? This book, Quran. Whoa. You would have to stop that? And this is a proof. He said, yes. And if you don't, I challenge you to bring something like it. What is like it mean? In its eloquency, in its legislation, in its prophecies, in its structure. You know, the way it have impact on people. Allah challenged them for 23 years. He challenged them in Mecca, in Medina, what the Arab pagans did. And before that, the Arab pagans, they used to have 3 markets of poets. Like Speaker's Corner. You know, the Arabs had Speaker's Corner. How? You bring poets to feed on each other. So before you go to Suq Uqad, you have to go to the first market. So before you move to Suq market of Uqad is for the best poets. So imagine, like I hear Brother Ali said some powerful poem. So I say, you know what? I'm going to challenge him. When the Prophet Muhammad came with the Quran, all of them became silenced. It's like they don't speak Arabic anymore. What they did, they waged a war against him instead of challenging him. Even though we know in a war you're going to lose your family, lose yourself, wealth, everything. So how come they choose war and they left the challenge of bringing something like it? Because they knew that what our Prophet Muhammad brought is not from him. It's from the Most High, and we cannot challenge it. So let us wage a war.
Also, the Quran gives you truths that you can testify to yourself. It's tangible truths.
Yeah, for example, when Allah said He will preserve the Quran, that's a claim. That is a claim. You cannot tell someone Quran has been preserved. What is it Allah said? No, we can prove that claim. That claim, I've challenged everyone to do it. The Christians, the Jews. Let us burn our scriptures. Let us, for the sake of argument, I'm not saying we do it here. Let us throw our scriptures in the sea. The only scripture that we can bring back is the Quran. Do you know who can bring it back? Not the Muslim scholars, the Muslim children. They memorized it word for word, letter for letter. And Allah mentioned that in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّنَّا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have made Quran easy to be memorized. Now you go to non-Arabs. They don't speak Arabic, but they memorize Quran word for word, letter for letter. How a man that lived 1,400 years ago, he knew that his book would be memorized by everyone. They don't even speak the language. And will be preserved because that was not his claim. That was the claim of the Most High. I was speaking just to show my brothers and sisters, those who are watching, as a benefit, that we can prove why Prophet Muhammad cannot be a liar. Do you know why? Who can give me one proof why Prophet Muhammad cannot be a liar? Why? One proof. From his biography. Why he cannot be a liar? I'll give you one. The story of Ibrahim. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, his son Ibrahim passed away. Okay? And the Arabs, that time, they were not familiar with eclipse. Eclipse, yeah? Same day, eclipse occurred, same day. So they say the reason there is eclipse, because Prophet Muhammad's son passed away. If he was a liar, what he would have said? You see, I told you. Look, my son passed away, because they don't know nothing about the eclipse. Yeah. My son passed away, look what happened to the sun and the moon. Because the biggest liar will try to utilize any opportunity to back up his claim, correct? But what he said what occurred, it has nothing to do with my son's death or anyone's life. What occurred is from the signs of the Creator. So what he did, he turned them back to the Creator, not to himself. That is not the characteristics of a liar. Another one, I'll give you another one. Prophet Muhammad, ﷺ, his wife was accused to be adulterer. And we know, accuse me, accuse my cousin, don't accuse my wife. The one that will love more after our wives, after mothers, our wives. So they accuse his wife to be adulterer. What he could have done if he was a liar? He could have said, God told me that's not true. Same day, you know? Or God told me, oh my wife, because I don't like you anymore, I'm looking for excuse. God told me it's true. Well, for 1 month, he's asking the people, what do you think about Aisha? People say she's a righteous woman, she's good, oh Messenger of Allah. Even Prophet is asking Aisha, if you commit a sin, ask Allah forgiveness. Aisha started crying for 1 month. Then Allah revealed the verses, freeing Aisha. Person say, no, you're not going to wait 1 month if you're a liar. 1 month, and it's the most hurtful thing. Likewise, another proof. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah revealed the verse, "O Muhammad, you will never get killed, or you will never die until you convey the message." This verse was revealed when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was engaged in a war. Not when he was in his palace hiding, and the verse said, "I'm not going to die." No, he was in the places when there's most likely he will get killed. However, they tried to poison him. They did. They put magic on him. They did. But they never killed him until he conveyed the message. He said the message is clear. Now if he dies or gets killed, khalas. Because why? The prophecy has been fulfilled. That you will not die or get killed until you convey the message. And that's why there is no statement in any religion that Allah said, "Today I have perfected your religion for you." Except Islam. No Christianity, no Judaism. Make sense?
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. That's why, what we have to do, especially all of us in our time, we are shabab of Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter. We are most of our life on social media. We now have to learn about Islam. You can't keep saying, back home in Algeria, back in the days, you can say, "I'm a Muslim," that's it. Everyone's a Muslim. But now we live in a city or in a country when the people are going to challenge our belief. So we have to know why Islam is the truth. And alhamdulillah, Islam established itself. Is that clear, مفهوم؟ مرهوب؟ الحمد لله. مين من الجزائر أنت؟ وهرن. أنا من وهرن. مين من وهرن؟ وهرن. بلاطو. أنا ملك مين؟
الله يبارك.
أنا مش بعيد عليك. راك جاري. بلاطو وعندي صاحبي أنا مبتي لك.
أنا فوت الأرمي.
هذا مبتي لك.
أنا فوت الأرمي في الكبيد. سيمسون سبور.
في الإساموندي.
نعم.
حدانا مش بعيدة.
حوايج تعرف حوايج جودوكا.
كان وين كانوا في الجهة إيش؟ في الكمين؟ دوزيام ريجون واه.
على غوش هو حدا الكازيرنا بواحد
واحد جيت طولو.
ياه
ما شاء الله. راك جاري ما شاء الله. الله يبارك فيك.
ما شاء الله جانا.
ايوا ما شاء الله الحمد لله.
هنايا بالك يوافقني بالك ما يوافقنيش. احنا ممنوع نعيشوا في هذه البلاد الا في 3 صوالح ولا 4 صوالح.
الدعوة.
التمريض.
المرض.
ولا
الدواء. ولا العلم. قبل العلم
هذا ما عندناش حق نعيشوا فيها.
لا بصح كاين الان العلماء قالوا الا هي الاحسن اوف كورس معروف الاحسن ايش لكن اذا انت عايش just can we speak English? Yeah, in English. He was talking is it allowed for us to live in this country and he was mentioning the reason we only allow if we are given da'wah or for medication reason or for seeking type of knowledge we cannot seek in our country back home. I said no, the scholar said if you live in a non-Muslim country and you are allowed to implement Islam, then you are allowed to live. It's not haram for you. However, it's better off to make hijrah, no doubt. But it's not haram. But if you're given, that's why I always advise my brothers and sisters, utilize this opportunity. That of course, okay, you were born here, your father was born here, but utilize this opportunity, live in this country to give da'wah. Like in Algeria, all of them are Muslims. You understand? But here, there's a lot of non-Muslims. You can imagine, Prophet Muhammad said, "In yahdi Allahu bika rajulan wahid, khayrun laka min humur ni'am." If one person became a Muslim through you, it's better than the world and what is in it. Imagine that. But that has to be done based upon knowledge. You have to learn what Islam is truth. You cannot say to someone, Islam is the truth because one day I was sleeping in my room and Prophet Muhammad appeared to me. No. This maybe happened, alhamdulillah, in a dream, yes, but maybe it's not Prophet Muhammad. No, Islam is a truth because Islam is based upon tangible proofs and a logical, rational argument. Alhamdulillah.